right then. So let's shut this down. Give a few minutes for some people to get into the room, but I'm just gonna go like this. My live the other night, I wasn't sure what was going on with the mic and the timing of it, of if it gives me a certain amount of time to be live off of that app website thing that I was using to be a driver for the live. So until I get that worked out and do a couple more test runs, I'll be running it like this. But you get good intel, people. You get good intel. And I'm going to have corn, elotes. It's corn with some cheese on it. So I hope everybody's doing good. We got some info to talk about. Putin has taken out Facebook out of Russia. He's trying to control the information flow is what it is. He says it's because of he's worried about fake news. Like the kind of news that says that hey, he's losing a war against a smaller enemy because his tanks are getting blown up and his people don't really want to fight him anyway. There's a lot popping off, but you know, it is what it is, man. You mess with a group of people like that and that's what you get. Let's see, what did I get here? I got some corn and stuff. I was supposed to have some salsa. I don't know if they even gave me my salsa. Oh, that's a couple little things of salsa. I don't know what that's about. There's a bigger one here. I got food, man. I got barbecue and some greens. So, people, yeah, so the Facebook in Russia got shut down. I think it's because they're sharing that their kids are dying and the coffins are going back to Russia right now and they can't handle that mess. Here, let me zoom out a little bit so you can get to there, that you can see actually what's going on a little bit better. Just break it down, you know what I'm saying? Just break it down and give it a hard day to go. Ain't nothing wrong with that, right? Okay, a little bit less glare maybe off of the canopy of the fuel aisle. There we go. A little bit of zoom and do it different. All right, so there we go. So yeah, so he shut down Facebook, and then Anonymous has Anonymous could have had something to do with it because they have now declared war on Russia, basically. Cyber attacks have happened, and they've actually taken out several different company websites. I mean, they just tore into Russia, Anonymous. And then let's see, also I told you I was going to go through and name the 4 carpenters. The 4 carpenters are in Zechariah, the 4 that will help the Jew that is under attack from the other country with the basically the neighbor that attacked. So the first that I'm going to name is the United States, just because I'm in the United States. It's not because they are the greatest of countries that are helping Ukraine. They're a big one. We have a lot, but if you look at the percentage of what we've given Ukraine and compare our GDP to these other countries who have given a lot, it's just like the widow's mite. You can be a billionaire and give somebody $5, but if someone who only has $10 in their pocket gives a poor man $10, you know, they've given more. Or even if it's $5 a piece, it's what you have, a percentage of what you have. It's you've given more because you've given the widow's mite. The old widow, all she had was 2 mites, and that would have maybe bought a loaf of bread back then. That was about it, and that's all she had. So she gave more than the kings did with all their gold. Well, a lot of people are bringing it up that we left a certain amount of military hardware in Afghanistan, and that was basically taken by the Taliban. We could give all that to Ukraine and they could do more with it, but so that's fine. I think we just need to send them some warthogs and this kind of thing. But here's what's going on. I named them as I named the U.S. us as the first carpenter. So I'm proud of us for helping. I think we could help a lot more, and I think we will. Okay, the second carpenter has got to be Poland. Poland's accepting all of the people. To say that you can send your whole country, which by the way is what it says on our Statue of Liberty, give us your tired, your poor, your huddles of masses yearning to break free. That, and I'm gonna say this too, when they ever do go back to Ukraine, that Freedom Square in Kyiv, they need to give them a Statue of Liberty. Something smaller, something fitting, something to scale. Somebody needs to build one and send it to them as a gift when this is all over. That's what's up. That's where I'm at. Because they earned the freedom. That's for sure. So, the number 3 carpenter. I have to give that to France. I'll tell you why. I was saying that they needed an external base to take off from an air base. Well, first off, to go over what no-fly zones are, you don't want a no-fly zone because then you're really not even supposed to fly over it, really. And you would make it to where other countries are not supposed to come in either. So, you don't exactly want a no-fly zone in the country. You want it all the way around the country with all the other countries that surround it, which is what they did. However, even though they don't know what a true no-fly zone means, they were speaking in this way, saying that France has now put an aircraft carrier towards the Black Sea off the coast of Ukraine to support them in a kind of a no-fly zone situation, or at least to give them what I would call air superiority, which is the greatest thing ever. They don't just need an air base, they need an external air base, maybe 2 or 3, not just on carriers. So that would be the 3rd carpenter. Now the 4th one, you know, it's a hard call because there's a lot of other countries that have given a lot with body armor and this kind of stuff. I'll put them down in the comments below, the other ones. I'm sorry it can't be Germany, even though they've helped a lot lately, but you know, man, I may have to reserve that. It's a little bit hard. It's a little difficult, but yeah, I may have to reserve that one. There's more coming, but I would say at least 3 of the carpenters, but I'd say the UK, you know, because UK has done so much and sent a lot of troops and people that are helping out in different ways in different places, and there's a lot of volunteers coming from the UK. Like, there's, in the end result, Russia won't be able to match the amount of people who are volunteering from other countries to be fighting on the side of Ukraine. Like, not exactly as mercenaries, but kind of, at least as volunteers, but not as much as well, Ukraine still has its little reserve kind of thing that stood up and helped out when it came to Donbass and all that, and honestly, which they employed a bunch of people that were, you know, of questionable other groups that they were in. But the thing is, hey, you gotta think crazy when there's crazy going on, and so they recruited, you know, some ones that were a little bit out there. But they basically, they won what they were trying to do. So that's their militia group. They still have the militia group. You can look it up on Vice TV. Did an interview with them a while back. Santa still brings presents. They're not the kind for boys and girls on Christmas time. They're different sorts of presents. So Yeah, the dude's even got a plate on his car that says Santa. Santa? Yeah. If you're listening, if he hears this, I doubt it, but it is the internet. You never know. What's up, Santa? Don't bring me nothing. Don't bring me nothing. So Santa brings gifts. Yeah, they nicknamed him that. And so there's that. I'm trying to think what that other guy's name was, his nickname in that militia, but there's Santa, and then the other guy was like something like Thunder. Yeah, Thunder, because you hear him, but you'll never see him. Look, those guys, man, look, I don't care what group they were in before, what they did, look, they are still there. So you got militia group helping Ukraine, you got your Ukrainian army is all taking care of everything right now, and they're the ones on the front, but there's still some fighting and stuff going on, and you got a lot of people from different countries volunteering. So so when Putin got rid of Facebook, I'll be honest with you, it could be because a lot of people unfriended people who were in the Russian government anyhow, like all these other countries. How are you gonna have friends? You ain't got no friends. So seriously, it ain't like he was doing anything to lose friends, because he probably lost a bunch before that. But it had to do with sponsored companies on there doing something and something, I don't know, but he's all worried about fake news. He needs to be worried about the real news getting out and his own people taking him out, which is pretty much everybody's saying, hey, it's likely. I mean, he does sit at the other end of a table, though. It's like 50 miles long. I put that picture up on Twitter. So when you look at it, right now, I put up stats on the actual losses of tanks from Russia. There's that whole column that they basically, what they had done is they had shot up the front and blew up some tanks, and now it's 40 miles long, they're saying. I was saying it was 18 because that was the intel I was given, but it was already 40 at that time. Okay, so a 40 long mile armored column with support and people in the back, but they're going to be so worn out from sitting in those trucks, in benches, and sleeping in them, whatever, all those troops, and their backs are going to be hurting and everything else. They're going to be so worn out before they ever get to Ukraine that they're just going to be cannon fodder anyways, just like they're, you know, before. But and now Ukraine has already said, like I said, the first batch they'll be able to accept as people that surrender and all. It's already over for that, I'm afraid, because the Ukrainian militia, the security defense forces that are all of the special forces, put out, and I put it on Twitter, and I put the loose translation of it on Twitter also, saying basically, call your mama now for the last time, because you're going to be dead if you come to Ukraine. So they're not taking any more prisoners. Anybody who is anybody involved in it, it could be someone supporting it, driving a fuel truck, they don't care. They're going to be summarily shot. So there's no more prisoners. They're not trying to do that no more. Like I said, the first batch would be able to, you know, basically surrender, but it wouldn't work for the second batch. Well, so they've already put that out, and they're not going further. A guy on my live yesterday was even saying that they were saying the Russian tank drivers, or I guess somebody in their battalion, was taking their, probably their kind of like a K-bar, their knife, and puncturing their own fuel tanks. They're not just saying they're out of fuel, but even if they got more, they would have to patch it up. I know that a lot of those tanks that they've abandoned as soon as they got into Ukraine and were like, you know, oh crap, we're getting out of here, and then they're walking around town and they get caught. It's not just the gypsies that are towing away the broken ones, but the Ukrainian army is saying, oh, this is a gift. Thank you for the gift, Russia. And they're taking the tanks and they're assimilating them into their own army, except for the ones that shoot those, I think they're called hyperbaric, the fire creating over the battlefield, and everybody bakes on, you know, 700 degrees. Those missile launchers, they burned one of those down to nothing. And there will be war crimes, just like I said a while back, before this ever even started, that they would charge they would charge Putin with war crimes, and that he wouldn't be able to leave his own country anyways, even if he lived through this. But I don't think he will. I know it's kind of one of the things that's annoying, and it may seem a bit odd, but from the start of this, it's going to be 40 days and 40 nights. Kind of, it's God's number. He uses it. He used it on the ark. It is what it is. That's what's going to happen. And I looked in on the internet, I was like, 40? Well, it kind of coincides with, it took about 47 days when we went into Iraq. It took, and some are like, 50, some are 30. So I'm like, oh, it does kind of fall in line with that. So contact me on here in 40 days and we'll talk about it from the time that I said it begins on this part of this conflict. But it's going to take a third of their population, just like in Zechariah. But I believe that the second generation will be so blessed will help rebuild the place, and they're going to be rich anyways. They got oil off their coastline that they just found that's like so much. All they need is shell oil to go in there, which shell oil left Russia also. There's all these companies that are devaluing, or whatever you want to call it, themselves from Russia. And so Russia is a pariah right now. Nobody wants to have any money in there, and they're going after oligarchs. They have now located all of their mansions in England, which is why I said too, people in Russia need to push this. People need to push this to people in Russia. This phrase right here is the Russian government and oligarchs get euros, and we can't even get rubles, because the banks won't even give them rubles, and they're not worth anything anyway. So their status with the worldwide credit system has gone to junk status. China is now bowing out gracefully, basically, and they don't want those helicopters now because they crash. Evidently, they can be taken out by just a little shoulder-fired, missile. And a lot of countries like India just took a deal and then they just rejected it. I think it was really weird. One report says they accepted a deal from Russia, and then another, I guess maybe the US talked to them, and then they said, oh, you know what, we don't want to do that, and they reneged on it and rejected it. I'm not quite sure exactly if that's correct or not, but that's my understanding of it. So India's trying to come back around. Germany's definitely coming back around. They're saying they're going to send in weapons and everything now. I think the world, honestly, you got to say what it is. You have to be honest. I think they kind of was waiting for Russia to do something stupid. But the problem is, if they don't stop him now, he's going to take over other countries. I appreciate the like. He was going to go further. He'll go as far as you let him. And even people who worked with him in the KGB, who were supposed to be judging his behavior and seeing if he's a good agent or not, said this guy's a little bit off because he doesn't take into consideration the possibility of he has no fear of consequences of his actions. He was reported to have been driving next to a hay truck, reached his hand out the window to get some hay, and he about wrecked the car and I guess spun out or whatever he did. And the guy next to him said he's a little nuts, and his answer whenever he had to do the report was, I like the smell of the hay. So evidently he's a little bit not quite right, but he also has no understanding of consequences of his actions. And also with him saying that he understands that there's an end of the world anyhow and doesn't care so much, like that the world's going to end anyhow, so if it ends today and we all die, well, the thing is, a lot of his people don't want to die today. I don't want to die today. The whole world doesn't, we're not with him on that. He's not quite right in the head for a lot of reasons. Not saying he's completely insane or this, but he's got some character flaws that are not becoming of a true leader. And he's definitely not a general, because you don't send your people out in tanks without topographical maps, road maps, and send them to a country they've never been before, and they got not enough food, they didn't have enough fuel. You send them on exercises and have them run around. That was their crash course in driving a tank, is what that was. Because as it turns out, some of those people have only been in the Army 3 months, some of them 6 months, and they're driving tanks. So they had to have that time just to kind of learn how to drive a tank. Nothing about maneuvers, nothing about firing, nothing about range and this and that. They'd have to dial that stuff in. And tanks are just cardboard boxes that make you feel safe, but they're not. Every one of them tanks can be, the lids popped off of them, you know, the turrets popped off of them from freaking javelins. And those javelins, we just sent a bunch more. And we also sent some machine gun, I'll call them, okay, automatic rocket launchers. There you go. Grenade launchers, sorry, automatic grenade launchers. Yeah, they're something. They're bad to the bone. Every one of those can, you know, man, armor piercing rounds, all this stuff, they're huge. And, you know, each one of them bullets the size of your fist, and they can shoot rapid fire, like I don't know how many of them a minute. It's a lot. It's a lot. Okay. But it only takes one, and everybody around the tank walking is going to get hit too. So all those thinly covered, hoop roofed personnel carrier trucks, like deuce and a halves that we had back in World War II, we still got a bunch of them. Armored, it's not even armored, that's just a personnel carrier. They have unarmored personnel carriers. They're gonna get shot up like butter. They don't stand a chance. And so the reason they're bottlenecked right now is they don't want to go into Ukraine. And they're out of food and out of fuel, and Ukrainian army went up, and they're only like, I mean, they're like maybe, what is it, 60 miles from places in their own country that can help them, but they're also like, what is it, down to 4 miles or 8 miles or something. Maybe it moved back because they blew up some of the column. From the edge of Kyiv, and Kyiv knocked out a bridge too, and it's thaw time, so a lot of them are stuck in the mud anyway, even in Kyiv, and they're taking those tanks and pulling them out and moving them, and they're inexperienced too, so of course they're going to get stuck. Of course they're going to get stuck. So right now, also, Putin has said now that it's a law that if you put out fake news, that it's, I think he said 15 to 30 something years imprisonment. They might try me in absentia. You never know. I might be looking at prison time in Russia. Hey, whatever. Don't extradite me. It's all good, because that would not be good. But you know, that's what they're doing to their own people, even, and their own people that are interviewed are like, oh, he's our leader or whatever. And it's not safe to talk about it. Hopefully they'll have a country one day where it's safe to talk about it. So they have a dictator. Maybe they'll have a leader later. At least Ukraine has a leader. That was where the Rus people started anyway, was Ukraine. They came from there. So you know, the one guy who was the Air Force general went back to try to take his base. He's missing. He's been missing since that day. His wife hadn't heard from him. Nobody knows where he's at. They probably took him back to Russia, but him and a small group of his men that were trying to go back and take the Air Force base went back under their own terms, and so they I guess were captured there. But it would be good to hear where he's at, how he's doing. But I'm sure Santa has sent a bunch of presents to his captors. I guarantee you that. They call him Santa because he's got the beard and all that, but it's a little bit different. He sends different presents. People are standing in front of tanks over there, and the tanks are having to stop because they know it's not right to run somebody over, but they're unarmed. A lot of groups of people are trying to protect their nuclear reactor, but they've set one on fire, then they put it out. But the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency basically condemned it, and it's an older reactor. They're all older Soviet era reactors, and they're not solid state. You get them too hot, you can't cool them off. It could be a problem, just like Chernobyl. That's why Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, was saying, hey, Europe, you might wind up with volcanic ash, but no, radioactive ash and dust in the air coming over into Europe and affecting you. So kind of like nuclear winter, the mutually assured destruction kind. So I found a video on here that actually somebody did a simulation of all the strikes, and first it showed the deaths by the explosions and what each country would do. Then it showed the radiation that would go all over the planet like a fog, and it would cause deaths, people's skin fall off, all kinds of craziness. Then showed the nuclear winter, that, you know, grass wouldn't grow, corn wouldn't grow, you couldn't feed yourself, everybody die anyways. That's like a 100-year event. People can't live through that. I don't care how many canned goods you can now. You cannot live through it. So even if they have those, Russia just built that, you know, very expensive, supposedly nuclear war impervious plane. He might outfly the blast, but I don't know where he plans to land when he gets done. So it's kind of stupid. And they have that dead hand system that's still operable, that if it detects radiation over Russia, even if everybody's dead, it will automatically launch their nuclear ICBMs, their intercontinental ballistic missiles, and it will automatically destroy the targets that it's already set on. So, you know, but the other thing is this too. This is kind of odd. Special forces from Israel are going in. Now, let me tell you something. Israel, I look at what they do. Man, they are double tough. Man, you can't. Nobody can nobody can take anything away from their special forces, and they've got the Mossad. You know, that's that. Look, you do not want to mess with those, and they're going to help out Ukraine. I mean, I ain't saying that one little group can single-handedly do something for, but man. So what I'm trying to figure out is how come some reports are saying that Israel is with Russia, yet they're saying that special forces from Israel are going to help Ukraine. I don't know if they're just double talking to Russia or what's going on. I think at first a lot of countries were, just like Germany, and then they're all of a sudden, when Russia went full in, they pulled their cards back and said, okay, you know, just like China is pulling back on Russia too. I don't think anybody can afford to help Russia, and it ain't gonna be long out of the SWIFT system and everything else. You're talking like no money for nobody, no jobs, no trade. Suffering's not even the word. They're going to have no food. They'll be out of food in maybe a week and a half, but yeah, even if they have like MREs and that kind of stuff from the government that were for the army, they do have those, by the way. Russian MREs are different. They got all these little jellies and craziness in them. They can't sustain their people. There's just no way. So this is just going to be a little short little live. Anybody wants to say anything, that's cool, and I'm going to step off here. I wanted to get some of this stuff out. As soon as that column does get moving, they'll have to use the road. A couple tanks tried to cross over some railroad tracks. I got a picture of that. That was really funny, and I put that up on community. Check out the communities. I put up some little some pictures in there, and then one of them was the thing that the special forces of Ukraine put up saying they weren't going to take any more people. And then one was a list of all the Russians that were actually captive and taken as prisoners of war. And then yeah, there's a lot going on, and I put some stuff up on Twitter. It's like you can't, the information that's coming in now, all you basically have to do is go on Twitter and type in hashtag Ukraine or hashtag Russia, and you get a lot of intel. But the information that's flowing in now, a lot of it is video footage from actual defenders of Ukraine that are saying, or some of them are news media, and they're on Twitter and they're posting videos of their everyday, and look, here's a tank over here fixing to shoot at this and this and that. So they try to censor a lot of the gore out of it and that kind of stuff, which is good. But you'll see them fire a tank. A couple minutes later, you see them walk up to the tank. They've already, you know, cleaned some stuff up, and then showing the tank that's already cooled off and not on fire anymore. Because those weapons burn so hot, it's like thermite or something. It burns so hot, it's like you have to wait, and the steel, like, it burns the paint, makes it almost like a rust color, and it's so hot you gotta wait for it to cool off. But yeah, they some of them know what they're getting into, and now, because they were, I think it's because they were sharing so much information about all the caskets that are coming into Russia right now with the soldiers in them. One independent story was this: there was a woman who commented this and put this on the internet, and I think this is right before it got shut down, and they've censored a lot of internet channels over in Russia and just shut them down. But one lady said, out of an armored column of 180 men, I'm not sure if she said 18 of them survived or something like that. I don't want to give the wrong number, but it was some very small number. And of course those would have been taken captive unless they did retreat. But the thing is, now what they're saying is that all of the commanding officers are shooting their own people if they get wounded. So while Ukraine is treating even the Russian wounded same as Ukrainian, they don't make no difference. They're like, put them on the table, let's work on them, let's help them out. Basically, well, that's up until now. They probably have a lot less now because the special forces are just going to shoot them. They will be summarily shot. But while they are taking care of both sides, Russia's not even taking care of their own. Yeah, that country will be better off becoming a different country. Russia doesn't need to be Russia anymore. They need to be something different. They've become the pariah of the world, the antithesis of peace. And even the worst dictators in the world are looking at them going, you're screwing things up, because then they're going to come for me next and look at my, you know, all their abuses of, you know, man, just breaking all the rules of human rights. So anyways, I'm just having some I'm fixing to have a brisket sandwich. I've got a Dr. Pepper on ice and some elotes. There's a Mexican restaurant here that's inside this little place in a little box truck thing. Then there's also the brisket. So earlier I had Mexican food, now I'm having the brisket and this. Still got part of that chicken burrito, and I got chips. They were supposed to give me a thing of salsa. They did not. I'm gonna have to go back in there. And then it's time to check the levels of fluid in the truck and get rolling. I'm stacked up pretty heavy. Already booked 3 loads. Don't know when I'll get live again, but this intel, like I said, you can do way better than what I'm even saying on here just by going on Twitter and doing a search. Hashtag Ukraine, blue and yellow, Russia, Kiev or Kyiv, World War III, which we're currently in, and tanks, and they're putting up pictures. You know, that's where those pictures have come from, is those guys there. And evidently there was at least 2 of those fighter jets that was shot down, but Weon has a video up too. I need to put a link to that, where they did a breakdown of what at least Ukraine is reporting and then what Russia is reporting as their losses. And that's low because, of course, every day there's a lot more, but today was probably a lot. And there's fixing to be a big push. And like I said, they're going to use starvation against those troops and tell Russia, hey, you get fed when you go in there and attacking people. Maybe they'll walk in with their hands laced, but I don't know if they'll be accepted. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. I think they'll be shot in the back if they try that. Like I said, I don't know everything, and my knowing is like splatter paint. I only get some of the story. The rest of it I see day by day unfold. And but I did get that it was 40 days. So odd. Really odd. So if it started that World War Wednesday, let's see, today is the 3rd, 4th. I have to look back at how many days it's been. I guess 6, something like that. Let's see. I believe it was 27th, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's been 8 to here, and it's going to be 40. That would be 14, 28, 31, 2, 3, 4, 5, 36, something like. About the 2nd week of April is when the worst of it will stop. This is my knowing. So, I mean, it's not going to be completely over. It'll be when the worst of it comes to a don't know if it's going to be a truce. It's going to be a brick wall. That's what I'm getting, a brick wall, whatever that means. So in the meantime, they're driving around and trying to keep their town safe and trying to stop tanks by people standing in front of the tanks. Humans standing in front of the tanks unarmed and just putting their hands on them and stopping them, trying to, or whatever, you know, like the tankman knows he could hurt the person, so he stops, basically. And doesn't know why he's in Ukraine in the first place. People want to get off this thing. This is all I got for you. You want to make some comments, go ahead. I'll give you a sec here to make some comments. Hope everybody's doing good, and I'm just fixing to get rolling. Have hours and must travel. And freight. So it's time to hit it hard. Let's see. Well, in 33. Wow. Yeah, I see numbers. Oh, I will leave this with you also. If you don't believe in the whole situation being that that country is touched by the hand of God, I'll give you this. In the Bible, it tells how many men were supposed to go and register that were of fighting age okay, in Israel. And that number is the exact same number of the area of the landmass that is reported on the internet to be the size of Ukraine. Look up the size of Ukraine and you'll find that number in the Bible. See, I see numbers too, but there's some people who have seen this, that they found that. And I saw what they were talking about and I understood. I was like, oh, you're talking about the numbers of the ones in the Bible. There you go. I'll try to put a link to, somebody's probably got a video on here about that, but it was another forum. And I'll have to get my little laptop out and get the I gotta go on Reddit, because seriously, I know there's stuff on there, but some of it's like a rabbit hole. People have invited me in comments on here and everything else. Hey, you got to go to Reddit and get on this and whatever. I'm gonna get things together and I'm gonna set up a little thing on Reddit. First, I have to find a better driver for my YouTube channel for doing videos that I can show other videos, like I did last night, yesterday. Sorry, when I'm talking, I can show videos of what's going on. I think it conveys more information, but there's always that playlist that I'm adding to. I got lots of playlists, so check out my playlists. They're awesome, you know. And I got to make a lot of these. I got to add them to the Operation Hot Biscuit, but really at this point, there's some of them need to go in a playlist. I might need to name another one Operation Red Rover, like what I couldn't quite convey correctly. Like I said, it's not a joke. It's not, you know, how do you say it? How do you tell people that the Russian army is going to give up to a smaller enemy and freaking surrender? How do you tell the world this? How do you tell the world any of this stuff? How do you tell them it's going to be 40 days and 40 nights? How do you, you know, it's difficult. At this point, though, it won't affect the outcome or eventuality of the war, so I don't mind. I'm like, whatever. Call it what you want. I've already shown that what I say comes to fruition. I was talking about this happening when nobody had eyes on Ukraine, and you know, I knew they weren't leaving even when there was like 10,000. Then they made it 50. So I just get shown stuff and I'm supposed to share it. It's a gift is supposed to be given away. It's not supposed to be kept. So help your fellow man, and if you have a gift, use it for good. Use it to help people. I'm gonna get off this thing. This will touch at least one person. I see one person in the room, but I know there's others that step in and out, and some will save it for later. So if you want to know what's going on, I'm not even close to being the only source. Twitter's the best place to go. There's people that's on the ground, but there's also Happy Chip, that channel. He's over there. He's Ukrainian. He's actually in the army of some sort. I don't know. Maybe militia, maybe not. Definitely involved. And there's even people that were picking up Russian soldiers in their little minivan and having them in the back seat and making them say something like, "This is Ukraine," or something like. It's really funny. I put that up on that Ukrainian humor, a playlist on there. So anyhow, people, I'm gonna get off this thing. Oh yeah, and then there's one video I did put in there and I couldn't help, it had to go up. It is what it is. He's a lost Russian boy, off to war he goes. They tied him to a telephone pole and beat him, whooped his butt with a stick, you know, for coming in there and trying to kill their base. It is what it is. That's war. So if somebody's missing that one, they need to go to Ukraine, pick him up. I don't know how it works with prisoner of war exchange. I really don't. I said I think they make good truck drivers. Some of those guys actually, you know, if you gave them a map, would know where they're going. They were just underfed, underfueled. They didn't have intel. Maybe a GPS would have helped them. If they had a GPS, I think they never would have went into Ukraine. They'd have been like, whoa, that's a mistake. Because they know they're breaking a law. When a Russian tank goes into another country, it's breaking a law. So, which drives me to not understand Putin, because he's supposed to be a lawyer and he's breaking all these laws and all these the Geneva Convention. He's going to have war crimes against him. You know, I'm going to get off this thing, people. God bless you. Have a good night. I'm out. Peace.